Hello and welcome to Raising the Bar, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who are looking to elevate their marketing game. Today, we've got a great guest for you who is revolutionizing the influencer marketing landscape with his innovative platform, SoSquared. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sam Royle.
Thank you for having me, Jamie, and good to see you.
It's very good to see you, Sam. For our listeners, I think I've known you since you were...
In nappies.
In nappies, pretty much.
Yeah.
So Sam's been in Saudi Arabia doing some bits with the influencer marketing scene there. He's dropped in to see us today. So Sam, cannot wait to find out more about how you built the SoSquared brand and obviously the marketing strategies behind that. But before we do it, we need to hear about your journey. What took you into influencer marketing?
So what took me into influencer marketing is the fact that I have no experience in media, no experience in marketing, and actually no right to be in influencer marketing. But what I did see was this commercial opportunity, right? So influencer marketing has kind of been around since 2014, 15, 16, that kind of like era. And naturally with all infant industries, there comes a lack of infrastructure. And it was that infrastructure play. I come from a proper corporate background, right? Where we always using identification tools, CRMs, comms channels, analytics. There just wasn't that there for influencer marketing. So I saw that opportunity and I thought, you know what? As this becomes a more prominent form of marketing, businesses, agencies that want to transact in the space, they're going to have to use these set of tools. And that's why we built SoSquared.
You had this vision to effectively take the influencer marketing that was a little bit up in the air and very much take it to an analytical driven platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, influencer marketing, everything around influencer marketing is surrounded by a load of fluff, right? And I think using data is just a really good way to actually predict outcomes, but also as well to progress the industry.
100%. So you've got the vision there. What were the core values you set out to achieve with SoSquared?
So initially, we wanted to connect influencers with brands, right? But then as we kind of got into the space, we actually realized it wasn't just brands, because people traditionally think about influencer marketing in fashion, beauty, cosmetics. It was actually businesses. Like some of our biggest clients are insurance brokers or financial services firms. Like everybody's trying to capture consumer attention, and to do that, they need content creators and great content. So basically, our mission changed to basically providing that scalable infrastructure for businesses and agencies to efficiently transact within the space, but also giving creators the tools that they need to accelerate their careers.
Amazing. So let's dig into that infrastructure a little bit, because I'm sure for a lot of listeners who may have dealt with influencer marketing in the past, it's a case of scrolling through your own Instagram, coming across an influencer by chance that you know nothing about, taking, should we call it a gamble, saying, 100%. They're the perfect person to promote my business. What platform have you created? How does that infrastructure operate to take that headache away from people?
Sure. So I think for viewers watching, the easiest way to imagine what we've built before I dive into the feature set is what Fiverr and Upwork did for the freelancer developer economy. We do that for the creator economy, but also what HubSpot did for marketing automation. We do that for campaign management of influencer marketing. And when we look at the tool set that we did create, we have everything from that campaign creation to the advanced identification of content creators using proprietary data points, user-generated information, the comms channel to communicate, that CRM for campaign management to make sure there's visibility throughout the whole campaign process. But then also we've got an integrated wallet system, mitigating all that finance admin headache, but also providing third-party security around a payment system, which is really infant within the influencer marketing space. And then the reporting and analytics, looking at forecasting results, but also looking at things like behavioral analytics, but also peer-to-peer feedback.
So when businesses go onto the SoSquared platform, they're selecting their own influencers within that?
Yeah, so over the past 2 years and looking at kind of marketplace dynamics, so if we look at things like Uber, Airbnb, even Tinder, when they first started out their journey, you have to do the unscalable things first. So a lot of manual heavy lifting. Airbnb went and took the photos themselves. Tinder used to throw house parties. So we actually built an internal agency team to handhold our customers, so the businesses and the agencies, with a white glove service until we built network effect within the product. Now we're launching a new product that effectively is going to be self-serve, and we can open that up to the masses.
Okay, fantastic. So in those early days, you were very much facilitating that connection between brands and the influencers. How did you go about making sure those influencers are the right fit for each brand?
It's difficult, right? Because at the end of the day, you can ask for data insights, you can look for audience demographics. But one of the things that we always say to businesses, and this is like for any business looking to enter the influencer marketing space, especially if you're new to it, is you have to divide content from reach, okay? So when you're looking to work with an influencer, you need to say, does that content align with what we are looking to be in terms of our brand mission, our brand values? Does it represent the brand in the way that we want it to be represented? And if that's true, then that's a massive tick in the box, because ultimately, even if that audience isn't right, that content can be repurposed in things like paid social ads. And then you look at the audience. So have they built an audience in a sort of niche that definitely aligns, or we have some degree of certainty that aligns with our target customer? So for example, we've worked with some large automotive companies and we've worked with really micro influencers within the automotive space. But because they've built an audience, and albeit 20, 30,000 followers just around cars, that's a really captive audience. And because the purchasing decisions of people within that industry is normally quite a high value, they then command a really high ticket price, because the purchasing power of the customer and at the same time the audience aligns so perfectly for these automated.
Yeah. So as someone who's had a very much behind the curtain look at the influence industry over the last 5 years, what do you think are the number or the key factors for successful influencers? Because people look at, do they just look at follower numbers? Do they dig into audience? Is it to do with demographics? What makes a fantastic influencer campaign?
I suppose it really depends on what your outcomes are. And I think this is really important when doing an influencer campaign. A lot of businesses say, oh, we need to work with influencers, but they don't actually know why. So defining what your deliverables are, what your KPIs of that campaign at the start is really important. So let's just say, for example, brand awareness. Brand awareness fundamentally is done through reach. So you're looking at reach. Now, followers mean F all, right? Followers are completely irrelevant. You can have stagnant followers that have been on there for 10 years and they're not even live accounts anymore. You want to look at real-time data over the last 30, 60 days of what that reach is. How much is their audience engaged as well? So engagement rate is also super important. So we'll go back to micro influencers, which is a prominent area that we sort of act in. How engaged is their audience? Does their audience talk to each other in the comments? Are they talking to the audience? Like, that community aspect is what really drives, like, one, awareness, but ultimately sales, right? And I think that's where brands really need to pay more attention to, is how engaged is that audience, rather than these sort of vanity metrics like following.
So take, for example, a fashion brand out there.
Yeah.
They've got X amount of their budget. Do they go and blow it all on the latest person out of Love Island? Or do they spread it out over a variety of niche fashion influencers?
I mean, talking my own shop here now, I'm going to say small fashion influencers, right? But there is a use case sometimes for huge influencers that have come out of, say, Love Island or other reality TV shows. If the product that you're looking to sell is effectively a product that can be purchased by near enough everyone, where the ICP is so broad, sometimes that person that's just come out of Love Island because they're hot off the press or they have a big reach is actually perfect, because then you can basically get as many eyeballs on that product or service, right? If you are launching, so for example, you see a lot of major fashion labels at the moment, or larger fashion labels, doing edits with smaller influencers. Yeah. So influencers have like between 50 and 100,000 followers. It's not their own clothing range, right? But actually it's their own choices of clothing that they would style. And that's working really well because they have a really engaged audience, and it means that those products are then selling better.
Yeah. And for influencers, how do they extend their shelf life? Because I'm guessing the latest person of Love Island must skyrocket to the top, and then over time their engagement, their following dwindles down. A smaller influencer, can they build that over time and just continue that organic growth?
Yeah, so I think this is a really important point that you mentioned. So that hyper growth of going on reality TV, like, will ultimately, not in every case, but in most cases, lead to a huge decline, right? Because they haven't built an authentic audience. And authenticity is what is key in influencer marketing right now. Is, has that person built an audience from the ground up? There's the 3 C's of content creators: community, clout, and cash, right? Build a community. Once you have a small engaged community, scale that. That's your clout element of it. And then cash, that's the monetization. So effectively, if you're a micro influencer that has built an audience, so let's just say, for example, you are a vegan, right? And you do vegan alternative meals to your everyday takeaways, so fakeaways, right? if that's been your content from the start, you've built an audience that all share something in common. They're probably vegans, or they're looking for other healthy alternatives to takeaway food. Yeah. That then gives you a much better audience to monetize in the future. And it also then aligns you with certain businesses and brands.
Yeah. And how seriously do brands take the quality of the content that influencers are producing? Is that something they really dig into?
Honestly, like, if you had asked me that question 4 years ago, nobody gave a flying fuck, right? Now it is so important based on the fact that, as I said before, right, if that content doesn't reach the audience that you hope it's going to do organically through the influencer, you can then repurpose that content as a brand through paid advertising. And that's how brands are now looking at it is, okay, can I get more bang for my buck? Am I able to create one piece of content and repurpose it on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Meta ads, and everything else in between? I think that's really important for brands looking to interact in the influencer marketing space. You should have that crossover between influencer and content marketing. The content is so critical.
And for businesses, they've got a content creator to do a campaign. How does that usually look? Do they lay it out? Is it agreed on a number of posts, a number of stories? Can the business repurpose that content however they want for an infinite amount of time? How does that tend to play out?
That's typically done in the agreement at the start. So through SoSquared, we've got a full usage and licensing agreement. So we have a policy in place that covers everyone for that. But as part of that campaign brief and description, they will say what they want in terms of usage. So whether it's full digital right usage, whether it's paid, whether it's organic, whatever that might be, and for a time period. And the influencers will then reflect that in their pricing. In terms of deliverables, again, this is something that happens between the creator and the brand, and an influencer's price will always reflect what the deliverables are. But also as well, you can mitigate some of that price by actually having alignment. Mm-hmm. So again, if you're a brand that has perfect alignment with an influencer and they want to work with you, chances are you're going to get more favorable rates, right? Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big question about influencer marketing that people can't always get their head around. How do these rates work? Are they just buying this?
Let me know when you know, right?
Is there a general metric people can work on, or how does the pricing come into play?
So we're building a tool to try and identify this and actually really quantify like what you should be paying for influencers. And I think like when you look at paid ads, for example, you put $25,000 into Meta and it'll give you an estimated reach, etc. There's not really anything that does that for influencer marketing right now. As a marketplace, we collect so much data, so we're looking to build out a tool that can help that. But going back to what I said earlier is, if you look at the content, there is an opportunity cost there, right? So you're a brand and you want to go get some content shot for social ads. You got to hire a videographer, models, hair and makeup, editing suites and all that kind of stuff. That's going to cost you X amount of thousands. If you're using influencers that you can repurpose that content, it's a way of decentralizing that process, right? At a much lower cost. So as long as you're comfortable paying the opportunity cost there, the reach from the influencer, the additional cost for the reach is just anything but net positive.
Yeah. And how big have these influencers got in that sometimes when you're seeing this content produced now, it does not seem like someone in their spare room with their phone. No. Are they running businesses within their own right, with their own content teams, with their own creators? How big is it actually scaled to?
So you would actually be amazed how many creators that create great content are still just using their iPhones. Yeah. But a lot of influencers now are adopting a full sort of production setup where they've got videographers, editors, even some of them have got like sort of script writers. And fundamentally, and this kind of goes back to one of the reasons that we did start SoSquared, was giving creators the tools that they need to accelerate their careers. Mm. Okay, so since COVID, the gig economy, so people wanting to ditch the 9 to 5 and go live their life, right, has skyrocketed. That means that also the influencer marketing space has skyrocketed, yeah? But the people that treat it seriously, like a 9 to 5 job, are the ones who are going to make it work. You can't just wake up, record for 30 minutes, and then think, here we go. It comes down to everything, even your lifestyle. So like looking after yourself, training, the way that you eat so that you can be the best person, so you can be the best version of you on camera. And that also comes with supplementing that with additional resources like the camera, the production team, etc.
Yeah, I guess it's like anything in life. You've got to invest back into what you're doing.
100%.
Aim to be the best at it and push forward. So we look at influencer marketing, like you said, over the last 10 years, and there's been some unbelievable brands that have been created largely off influencer marketing. I think you lose count of the number of brands who've reached the top because of Kim Kardashian.
Look at Gymshark. Gymshark billion-pound company, their entire strategy was based on influencer marketing.
Oh, yeah, it's huge what people have achieved. But there's also been, over the last year or so, there have been negative stories in the press about some fashion brands who've gone into partnerships with the likes of people off Love Island, but even smaller influencers, and they've had pretty dire consequences in not delivering. There's been people pull mental health cards out while they're not keeping to their agreements, etc. It's been detrimental on the business. Have you experienced many conflicts between brands and influencers?
So fortunately, touch wood, the only conflicts that we personally experience are creators just going AWOL and not creating the content. In that situation, we bring in other content creators to produce that content. But just going to double click on what you said then, brand safety is massive at the moment in terms of big, huge, case, Kanye West, Adidas, right? Absolute nightmare for Adidas.
That one didn't work out, did it?
And the Yeezy brand, right? Yeah. But that's for every business, and brand safety is huge because everybody has a digital footprint. I have one, you have one, right? Yeah. Something that you may have said 10 years ago on Twitter is still discoverable, right? Yeah. And this is a massive thing for businesses where they're like, I don't want to be associated with an influencer that maybe has a past that could be damaging for us as a business. The biggest problem with this is it costs a fortune for brand safety. So a lot of tools out there that can scan content, the transcriptions of it, look for keywords. There's lots of AI tools that are looking to analyze content. Really achievable for the enterprise customers, but for these SMEs or these smaller businesses, unattainable. So, that's the space that someone should enter for SMEs is brand safety.
100%. On a bigger scale, I know a lot of the big Premier League clubs now, they're employing agencies when they sign these players to go back through their Facebooks, go back 100%. Through their Twitters until they were 13 years of age, because everyone said to me, if you look through your Facebook for the last 20 years...
You sent me something from your Facebook from 10 years ago.
I did. You wouldn't believe it. I've not seen Sam in years. And just earlier today, wasn't it? Popped up a photo of us 10 years ago.
Yeah, wow. I would not like to go back through some of them.
Yeah, I would say you haven't aged a day, but we don't like to tell lies on here.
Yeah, aged quite a bit.
Yeah. So with brand safety, is that something that SoSquared have to get involved with, or do you kind of leave that to the brand and the influencer?
So if we're offering a managed service, so if our agency team are offering a managed service, that is something that we will take responsibility over, right? As a self-service product, that is for the brands to make their own judgment call. Yeah. From a scalability perspective, we just can't be responsible for that. Now, unless we decide to build a tool for brand safety, which just isn't currently in the product roadmap because we just have so much in there at the moment, it's down to the brand's discretion.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And you said before that reach is really the essential thing. Within the platform, does that display to businesses? Is there a live data stream of the influencers previous 60 days, or how does that kind of come into play?
Yeah, so actually, we are an approved Meta developer partner, and as of 4 weeks ago, we just actually got told that we're one of 10 partners globally to have full API access into the TikTok backend. And whilst we haven't built these tools out yet, they are literally within the next 6 months of our product roadmap, where we'll be able to pull through that live data stream to show things like audience segmentation, reach, but also content as well. And that will then also help us forecast content going forward and then also report on it after it's being posted.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot here as you mentioned TikTok. Instagram versus TikTok campaigns. Tell me the difference. Tell me who should be using who. Tell me what on earth's going on TikTok, because I don't know.
Okay, so both really valuable. The way that we look at Instagram is more of the polished version of your life, right? People are a little bit more careful about what they put on Instagram. They're a bit more precious, right? TikTok is that raw, unfiltered, I don't give a fuck, right? And you see that also in B2B marketing as well from brands. A lot of brands are now adopting the fact that showing the behind the scenes of their company, that build in public, that who are the people behind this, rather than this polished version of who you are. So when it comes to Instagram versus TikTok in its most purest form, it all depends on, I think, the creator. So from a creator perspective is, what do their audiences look like on Instagram versus TikTok? What's the desired outcome? They're both as effective. I think where the key differentiator is things like TikTok Shop. So TikTok Shop has exploded in the UK, exploded in the US, and it's looking to expand over the rest of Europe now. That experience of shopping through social media in 2 clicks it's wild, right? Meta just couldn't do it. With Instagram Shop, terrible user experience, but actually Meta has now introduced a partnership with Amazon in the US where there'll be in-app checkout. Amazon, great at commerce, shit at social. Instagram, good at social, shit at commerce. So naturally, that's a way for them to test the water to see if it's something they should build out. But I mean, talking of the future of social media, social commerce is huge and will be even bigger in the next 5 to 10 years.
So for older listeners who don't know TikTok that well, when I say older listeners, I'm talking about anyone over 30 really doesn't know TikTok that well. But is TikTok Shop effectively a modern day QVC?
Yeah, do you know what? It's very easy to say that, and it is, but except from the fact that you've got engaging short form videos. So let's take a fashion brand, right? Yeah. How to style this outfit in 3 different ways, but I can purchase that outfit. Tap.
And do you think there's a differential on low cost versus high cost items out there? Does it have to be quick, cheap purchases?
Currently, the consumer is used to purchasing sort of like impulsive buys, right? So non-conscious purchasing decisions. We typically see anything with a basket lower than 60 quid or something like that works really well on TikTok Shop. Beauty products, however, amazing. Fashion, okay, but the thing with fashion is there's a high returns rate because of how they fit. Beauty products is unbelievable. Yeah. I mean,
did you see Mitch?
Made by Mitch.
1 million in a day, first guy in the UK on TikTok.
It was in our office in Manchester. Yeah. Absolutely crazy, and he did 2 million across a week, maybe 4 weeks prior to that. He's absolutely that is a prime example of. You can basically have a brand, but also have a product, the brand being his personal brand, have a product, and then leverage his own personal brand and other content creators to distribute out to the mass markets. But then when you've got an infrastructure like TikTok Shop to enable that user experience to go tap, tap, check out, it's on its way to you. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and if you've got that right price point for those impulse purchases, people just there clicking on their phone, particularly that younger demographic, you don't even think about it.
So ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, the Chinese equivalent to TikTok is Douyin, right? Social commerce and shopping on social media has been huge across like the APAC region for ages. People are purchasing cars and houses on Douyin. Like the consumer mindset there is that they will spend through that. That the everything app, WeChat, you do everything through it. I personally believe that as the customer gets more comfortable with shopping through social media, I mean, we all shop through, websites from e-commerce. As we get more comfortable with the platform and trust that it's being delivered, and trust me, TikTok have just introduced Fulfilled by TikTok. It's absolutely incredible. Like literally, it's like you get your stuff in like 2 days.
Yeah,
it's really, really good.
Well, you're in Dubai now. You get stuff in 15 minutes.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do some quick fire questions. Sam, you ready?
Let's do it.
Influencers. Top red flags for influencers. What puts you off one?
What, dating?
No,
I was going to say.
Influencers, what are the main red flags for brands when they're looking out for influencers?
Sure. So I think instantly, for me, if an influencer isn't posting video content, you can hide a lot in photo content. Video content tells no lies in terms of you can instantly see the reach, etc. And you can also see the quality and the engagement behind that. I'd also say if an influencer is reluctant to share their insights, massive, massive red flag.
Yeah. And do you think there's a lot of blagging going on with influencers and follower numbers?
Yeah, biggest blag in the world.
Yeah. Inflating them, buying them.
Yeah, there's, it's just like Dubai, it's massive blag.
Making yourself friendly to our audience now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so that's that. Brands.
Yeah.
Best way for them to get influencers on board with their brand values to be sharing their message in the same way.
Comes from the start of an influencer campaign. Does this person actually align with my brand, or are you trying to do a round peg square hole? Like if you're trying to work with an influencer because somebody else worked with them and you think, oh, that would be cool, you're just trying to force it there. If you actually spend the time and invest the time to finding the right influencers that align with your business, that journey is going to be so much easier to get them to really portray your brand message.
Perfect. And final one, how do you manage influencers effectively? They're not known as being the most manageable people. We've got the summers here. I'm sure half of them are in Ibiza. How do you get them on track on a Monday morning?
Fortunately, as an infrastructure tech solution, we don't have to manage them that much. But when we do have to manage them, it's communication, right? That communication piece is probably one of the biggest areas of breakdowns. And when that breaks down, the collaboration breaks down. So it's constantly communicating, keeping people within the loop. And I think that's the ultimate way to deliver on influencer campaigns.
Okay, perfect. So let's dig into these analytics a little bit further. As you said, when SoSquared started, you were trying to bring that corporate background, that attention to detail, that real analytical data to, as you described, a fluffy industry. Mm-hmm. How is SoSquared applying those analytics for the brands that are on the platform?
Yeah, so we have two new products or two new features that we're building at the moment. And as a marketplace, we collect data across every stage of the collaboration, right? So that means every point of interaction is time-stamped, the way the creator behaves on the platform, and then also as well, how they progress through each different campaign stage. We then have a peer-to-peer review system. What we're doing is building a confidence score, right? And it's a confidence score across multiple data points. There are different parameters, whether it be fashion, beauty, cosmetics, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, content types, get ready with me, how to style, whatever they might be, we have a confidence score across all of those different ones. What that then does is give us an overall confidence score that's reinforced through a peer-to-peer feedback system that basically tells us how confident are we that this influencer can execute on this campaign. This will help brands forecast who to choose, and also it will help us predict what the likely outcome of this campaign is going to be. Take that one step further and we look at using data and look at using AI machine learning, okay? So we're looking at building an LLM that effectively will become a campaign generator. So for a novice user who doesn't know what they're doing in influencer marketing, this will aid them. So we have a series of sub LLMs, so things like fashion, beauty, again, different platform types, different types of content. And what that does then is mitigate any chance of hallucination, but at the same time allows us to create campaigns that are really specific to different sectors. That automated campaign brief combined with a confidence score will allow us to automate the most challenging part of influencer marketing. That would normally take weeks. We can break that down to hours.
So what the SoSquared platform in the next generation that you're introducing soon will be able to do is you'll be able to log in, put in your campaign brief, and automatically see not only the best suited influencers for you, but also the best performing in that sector.
Yeah, you won't even have to put in your campaign brief. One of your team can jump on the platform, have a conversation with effectively what will be an agent, an AI agent. They'll ask a few questions, upload a few videos, dump a few documents in there, and it'll prompt engineer the campaign for you. So rather than your team spending weeks writing the perfect campaign brief, it can be done like that.
And that will go, like you mentioned before, the Upwork, the Fiverr, that will generate more of a model like that where people know they have to A, perform, B, get positive feedback to stay at the top and get the gigs going forward.
100%. And that's how marketplaces work, realistically. Like marketplaces, the cream will rise to the top. Then it's your job as somebody engaging with that marketplace to make sure you put your best foot forward. Yeah. And that will hopefully mitigate the issues that we do have in the influencer marketing space where it's full of basically blaggers.
Yeah. So yeah, up until now, there's been a lot of people managed to pull the wool over people's eyes, I guess. And that's coming to an end by the sounds of it.
Hopefully, I think, ultimately, like, there are always bad actors in every space, right? But content is fundamentally the most important part of advertising. Every piece of advertising has content. The way that we generate content now is through content creators. So being able to provide that infrastructure that allows businesses to spend their dollars much more effectively, but also give the tools to these creators to earn serious cash, that's what we're on a mission to do.
Yeah. And anyone who says that being an influencer isn't a real job now, you simply can't say that. It is a profession.
Of course it is.
In Dubai, we've introduced the influencer license, visa, whatever you want to call it. They've now got to go and register themselves to share content. You said you're in Saudi Arabia the last few days. They've done similar. It's as much of an industry as plumbers now.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like you just said, one of the reasons I'm in the Middle East at the moment is because there are licenses, there are rules, there are regulations. In the UK, we have advertising standards guidelines, right? In the UAE, in KSA, like they have similar things, but they're done through licensing. And as a platform, we can verify all that to make sure that campaigns are compliant. And going back to what you said about influencer being a real job, like, we all know influencers earn serious amount of money, and it has to be treated as a serious job now.
And with you said the advertising standards agencies there, I know it's probably 2-3 years old now, where Instagram, you had to start putting ad if it was a paid post. What steps are they taking and what are the reasons behind that?
So this is kind of like a bit of a nuanced point, and it's kind of a bit like a tick box sort of scenario where they've got to put hashtag paid collaboration or hashtag ad or paid partnership or whatever it is. The platforms are doing the best that they can to make sure it's obvious that this is a paid collaboration, but fundamentally, great content, you won't know it's an ad. One of the biggest trends of 2024 has been product placement. Now, yes, it'll be an ad and it will say hashtag ad at the bottom of it, but nobody's jumping on going, hey, buy this protein shake anymore. It forms part of a wider story, and it's that storytelling. It's that great creative content where you see products, subliminally in the background. Yeah. That's where the best content creators are.
And big brands need to get onto this.
100%.
Because if you think about it now, a top UK influencer, when they post a story on a Wednesday night, is going to get more views than Coronation Street on a Wednesday night.
100%. Who the fuck watches Coronation Street?
Yet big brands are still paying big money for those advertising parts.
So you know why this is, though? So this is because traditional media is still allocating spend there, and that's fine. Yeah. But this is what happened when social media marketing came around, as in paid ads. The huge big media conglomerates wanted to allocate budget to what they knew and what they could basically say, we can allocate big budget here because we know it's going to get X amount of impressions. Businesses are now being more data driven. They need to know who's viewing it. I mean, have you ever done a survey to say that you watch Coronation Street at 8 o'clock? So how are these getting these viewing numbers? I have no idea, because, you know, when the adverts come on, I pause it and skip it. So, you know, who's viewing these adverts? And, you know, no disrespect to people that sell TV advertising, but this is the thing, like, people are starting to allocate budget away from TV advertising into paid social, into influencers, into content creators. But remember, we're just at the start. I feel like influencers has been around for ages, but we are literally in the inception point right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's at a growth factor, because people said historically, when the radio first came out, people used to sit, listen to the radio. Then when the TV came out, the radio became something you had on the background. Now with social media, the TV's become the thing in the background. No one's properly watching it. You're consuming it on your phone in bite-sized chunks non-stop.
And this is the problem, right? Not necessarily a problem, but it's something that everyone needs to be aware of. Consumer attention has gone down to near enough nothing. Yeah. And that stop scrolling content is what's really important. And that's why working with the best content creators, or the content creators that are most aligned to your business, that can create content that stops people from scrolling and they pay attention for 7 to 10 seconds, that's what's going to win the race.
Yeah. And will you ever step in if you see a brand who have done a good budget and you just go, they're executing this completely wrong? Is that something where you would step in, or do you leave them to their own devices a bit on it?
So we do have our managed service, right? Yeah. We built an internal agency team of experts within influencer and content marketing. And when a brand does have a big budget, they'll often come to us for advice because, you know, left to their own devices, that's the quickest way to set money on fire, is using influencers.
Exactly. You said setting money on fire there. And I guess it all comes down to return on investment at the end. If people want to put their budget into influencer marketing, they have to know the return on it. How do you deal with highlighting that return on investment to clients?
Yeah, so this is a twofold question, right? First one, really quickly, TikTok Shop, you can clearly attribute influencer marketing spend to revenue generated because it's coming through the platform, right? So that's really quite easy to quantify ROI. When it comes to general influencer marketing in terms of brand awareness, brand affiliation, social proof, it's really hard to metricize that. You can metricize reach, you can metricize engagement, etc. But, you know, those CPMs are going to be way higher than an ad, right? But it's going to be much more targeted. But that's also what we're trying to do at SoSquared, is being able to actually attribute your marketing spend to those influencers and how they have generated a return on investment.
I guess the way people were doing that with the discount codes, those kind of ideas, so it was like Chloe 10 to see who's purchased. The problem is you don't know the reach on that. It's almost they can move forward to a way now where you track, you know, that journey from Instagram through to the site, see the conversion points and get a better understanding of it that way.
Yeah, you got to remember though, like, I'm going to go back to TikTok Shop. In the TikTok app, I can watch a video, I can press the basket button and I can purchase the product without ever leaving the app in literally a couple of clicks. Yeah. When it comes to discount codes and links, etc., this is something I've been talking about for quite a while now. A code sits maybe in the post, right? The user then has to then go and click, well, on a link. But where's that link? Because you can't put a link in the caption because it's not clickable on Instagram. So you have to go to the website, then have to search for that brand. Then if that brand hasn't optimized their website for, you know, user experience, it's a nightmare. Find the product, go to the checkout. I mean, I think Shopify data is still like 70% of carts are abandoned at checkout. Then they've got to put the code in. The user experience is terrible. Same with a link, right? You can put a link in a story. That story is there for 24 hours. If the consumer doesn't see it and the consumer doesn't want to purchase at that time point, then it's just wasted spend. Yeah. That's why I think social commerce as an industry is going to boom, because it's a real way of businesses tracking the actual ROI of influencer marketing. TikTok have nailed it. Meta is asleep at the wheel at the moment, but I have no doubt that they will fully dive into this.
100%. I mean, even the websites we've been looking at on our own e-commerce platforms, this idea of shopping within images at the minute. So you hover over an area, you can shop a scene. So, for example, in a kitchen, you can shop different areas, you can shop an outfit. And you think about it now, we haven't really touched on YouTube yet, but on a YouTube video, if someone's doing an outfit, different looks.
YouTube shopping's in the pipeline. They've already announced it.
Well,
shopping for YouTube. There you go.
Yeah.
You rub your magic lamp. You got the genie out.
And you think with those videos, just the point it's got to get to is where you can shop live from that video. Do you think that will be a possibility there?
100%. Like, it's here. Like, it already is here. Like, TikTok have taken what they did in China on Douyin and just basically forced it on the consumer in the UK, and they went, do you know what? It's worked. Yeah. And I think that is the evolution of social media, that along with search, right? And I just want to touch on this because social media was initially designed to connect us, right? That was kind of the whole Facebook spin-off, yeah? Then social media became the largest marketing channel ever. It was just a way of just pushing products and services onto consumers. The next evolution of social media is going to be search and commerce. And what I mean by that is the consumer now wants to shop through social media because it's simple. But also the consumer wants to search through social media. 40% of Gen Zs prefer Instagram and TikTok over traditional search engines like Google. Businesses need to become more discoverable on social media. I mean, I get a new washing machine. I don't read the manual. I go to YouTube and work out how to wash the flipping clothes, right? Still can't do it. But at the same time, I'm in Dubai now. I want to go out for dinner. I'm going to go on TikTok and find out where the best places to eat are. I want to watch a video. I don't want to read about it.
Yeah, 100%. And we had Facebook. Well, going back before that, we had Bebo, MySpace, the whole lot. Onto Facebook, Instagram emerged, TikTok emerged. We've had a few years without a new social player now. Do you think there's room in the market for another one?
No. So I get asked this question all the time. Yeah. So Be Real failed, Clubhouse failed, Threads thingy failed. Like, do you know why Facebook did so well? It's because Steve Jobs. Right? Weird as no, that's just weird, right? Steve Jobs brought out the iPhone in 2007. MySpace was way bigger than Facebook. The reason why Facebook won was because they adopted for mobile usage. There was a fundamental change in consumer behavior. We went from desktops to mobile devices. MySpace didn't. That's how they won. I don't think there's been a fundamental change in consumer behavior. VR and AR was nearly that, but it didn't quite take off. Now that, for me, would be the next evolution of social media, where effectively VR and AR takes off and people that natively build for those sort of platforms will take off. But then at the same time, look at how big Meta is as a business. Like, their market cap is incredible. Yeah. It's so difficult to compete. And obviously the US wants to break up big tech, etc. But it's that fundamental change in consumer behavior which is stopping other players entering the market.
It's such an interesting point on that mobile responsiveness, because the people that got that right, they boomed. Yeah, I think the Daily Mail is now the most read newspaper in the world. The only reason the Daily Mail got that was because they got the Mail Online spot on from day one. The Sun adopted later, the Guardian adopted later, the Telegraph. The Daily Mail were the first that were online. They had the best app. Now, who doesn't have the Daily Mail app on their phone? Yeah. And it's just a key story with that. And you touched on YouTube there. I don't think we can define YouTube as a social media channel. It's really a content creation platform. There's not the engagement as such. But when you said people searching for what they want, YouTube is the second biggest search platform in the world.
Of course it is.
You said you want a manual for your washing machine, you want to learn how to do something. YouTube's that resource. These big influencers, how many of them are actually adopting YouTube?
Huge. So YouTube is one of the hardest channels to grow on because you actually have to be entertaining for a long time period. Although there's YouTube shorts, like, you generally have to be entertaining for a longer time period. As a result of that, a lot of influencers don't adopt to it. But the ones that do, my God, can you charge massive premiums? It's crazy. And I think just going back to your point on YouTube being a huge search engine, who owns YouTube? Alphabet, right? Google owns YouTube. And when that was acquired, I think in 2003, 5, you have to fact check that. It was acquired for about $1 billion. And everyone thought that Google were crazy, right? They're like, this is wild. Yeah. But did Larry and Sergey predict the future of search, that people would search content, that Google will no longer be relevant, and actually to future-proof the business, they needed to buy YouTube. And, turns out that bet is a pretty good bet right now. It's one of the largest libraries of content ever. And when we're building things like generative AI, etc., gold.
Also for influencers, YouTube's got unbelievable monetization aspects.
Of course it has.
Not necessarily being paid to create your content, but they're paid on the adverts. I think it's 4,000 hours of content you've got to have created and you can monetize. People making huge money. Mr. Beast, those kind of guys, unreal.
Mr. Beast is like, that guy has a bigger production company than most Hollywood studios, but that is a prime example of just absolute enormous scale. But you got to remember, YouTube help you monetize your channel by putting the ads in there for you. So if you can create engaging content and build a huge audience, then that's just where the money is. YouTube is where the money is, but it's just really difficult to be a good quality content creator on YouTube.
Yeah, and I think it separates the men from the boys in some respects, because when you start doing YouTube, the days of using your iPhone are long gone. You've got to be script writing. You've got to have multiple camera angles. You've got to have a real plan to execute over a long-term period of time to be successful.
Of course you do. I tried to start a YouTube channel. It failed miserably. Waste of time, just because I didn't have the energy to put into it. Like, that is a full-time job, and you have to be an interesting person, which a lot of people don't think I am. So there we go.
It's always a challenge in itself. So we've touched on SoSquared. We've talked about the current influencer climate. Let's talk about the future of influencer marketing. We're saying there's not going to be any new social platforms appearing. What is going to be the future?
So future of social media and influencer marketing. So we just touched on the future of social media being commerce and search. Yeah. The future of influencer marketing has already kind of begun. So talking my own book here now, using nano and micro content creators that have built really engaged audiences, that community level and authenticity. You'll see every brand talking about community at the moment. Prime example of this, Represent Clothing. What the fuck have they done over the past 4 years? They built a cult following around George Heaton being like this fitness fashion guy, right? And just pushing himself to the absolute limits. They built a core following around that, then launched a brand 24/7 off the back of it. They then got the behind the scenes building of the brand. The whole thing's based around community. Every other brand's adopting community. In Dubai, there's the guy, Humantra guy, right? Yeah. I mean, I spend like fucking 60 quid a month on salt. Like, what the fuck is that about? But I love the community side of it. And this is the thing that brands are now adopting, especially like direct to consumer businesses. That community is so important, and it's less about like these huge influencers. It's all about these ones that have built real solid communities that they can tap into that perfectly align with the products that they're selling.
Yeah. I mean, Adidas, the people always talk about the battle of the marketing between Adidas and Nike. And Adidas went down this community build a long time ago with their run clubs, the different events, trying to build that community. So I guess now, is that the transition to building communities online for these brands within the influencers?
100%. And a little prediction here, like Adidas and Nike have been massively disrupted by On and Hoka, right? Come out of nowhere, really. I mean, Hoka's owned by the same company that owns Uggs, right? And the thing is, like, for these huge, big businesses, Nike, Adidas, Reebok, et cetera, that have been around for ages, they're going to either have to start acquiring businesses like your On Running and all that kind of stuff to stay relevant, or they're going to have to really adopt their strategy, because a lot of people are disrupted in this space. Go back to the Represent situation for gym wear 24/7. I see more people in 24/7 than I do in Nike clothing now.
I mean, it's a scary time for big brands, because the barriers to entry are becoming lower and lower and lower. Yeah. Like we said, you don't have to go and advertise at the Super Bowl anymore. You don't have to go and advertise in cinemas. You don't have to advertise on TV. With a well thought out influencer campaign, other, more affordable marketing campaigns, you can execute, pack well above your weight.
100%. Yeah. Look at the alcohol industry. It's been flipped on its head. You got George Clooney, Casamigos, Ryan Reynolds, Aviation Gin, creator-led brands, people that have built audiences, influencers have distribution built in, right? And because they have distribution built in, it means they can launch products. Yes, they need a team to organize logistics, supply chain, and the operation side of it. But fundamentally, these big brands are FUCK'd, right? Yeah. Because these influencers have that distribution channel. Prime Energy, I mean, I know it's gone down the hill now, but what the fuck was that? I mean, was it 200 million in the first 3 months? Like who does that? Yeah. We talked about Made by Mitchell before, 1 million in a day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And Ryan Reynolds is such an interesting one, because he's running his own production team as well.
Ryan Reynolds is the ultimate influencer.
But they run this really, really unique and clever idea where they are constantly looking for trending news stories. When a trending news story hits the press, in the same day, within 4 hours, they've released their own media riding off the back of that story. So it's hot. It's what everyone's searching for. It's what everyone's looking for. And they're riding off the back of it. And it's so quick. It's so responsive. It's so adaptive. It's just brilliant.
It's reactive marketing. And that's how marketing should be. Like, yeah, you have your core brand values and everything. And this is a place for TikTok, actually. You said the difference between Instagram and TikTok. TikTok is amazing for reactive marketing.
Yeah. Straight on it. And we can't talk about the future of influencer marketing without touching on AI. How much is that going to impact the market?
So the tools that I talked about before about using LLMs, using machine learning to automate the most challenging parts of influencer marketing, that's the role I see AI play. I've seen a lot of people and a lot of businesses have pitched to me about AI generated influencers. You got to remember, you can generate all the photos you want. The video generation is pretty much nearly there. But an influencer has an audience. You still have to build the audience. So whilst I could have an Instagram page with 400 photos on it, there's no fucker looking at them. Like, what's the point? There's no audience there.
They've built that AI influence there, haven't they?
Yeah, there's loads. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a thing in like the East. Like they do have AI influencers.
Yeah, they like the weird and wacky stuff there.
Yeah, and there's a really strong use case for it where you can control the narrative. You know, there's control. You can control the narrative. You know, there's none of that. You know, the brand safety stuff where you know their background and everything. There's a huge case for AI influencers, right? Or AI generated influencers. But fundamentally, people buy from people, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at that and you look at people building the community side of things, that authenticity, like where does that come from in AI generated influencers? The role of AI in influencer marketing is to automate the most challenging parts of it.
And do you see many influencers starting to try and speed up their own content creation process with AI, using AI to write their posts, using AI to write their scripts? Are people becoming a bit lazier in that way, or?
Yeah, I think, look, GPT is a great way to write scripts, yeah, but sense check them yourself because otherwise it just sounds stupid. I think these editing tools are also becoming pretty sophisticated. So AI editing, you know, the ability to dump a video that's say like 10 minutes long and get loads of shorts from it, you know, really, really good. The problem is it still needs that human touch to finish it off.
Oh, 100%. I mean, even with this podcast, we looked at AI editing tools. It says, put the whole podcast episode in, it'll pick the shorts.
Garbage, right?
Never once has that picked the right shorts because I know what the audience want. I know the kind of where the guest has gone in the direction.
Yeah.
There's no real human touch to picking that. And I think AI as a whole is still not quite at that level where it's seamless. It requires a lot of human interaction to make it function at a high level.
It does. I mean, for me personally, like, don't get me wrong, maybe ask me this question in 10 years' time, but right now, the role that AI plays is making everybody more efficient.
Yeah. And with the influencer marketing, has there been much talk of the metaverse yet? Because the metaverse gets mentioned a lot. I'm yet to see a huge amount of evidence of it in our everyday life, but that idea that influencers will go in within a metaverse with a different version of themselves, network with each other, influence people within that, is that something that could come in?
Yeah, so I think like there's still a huge Web3 community here in Dubai, so it's probably a lot more prominent here than it is maybe back home in the UK. But you know, during COVID, like the metaverse was a huge thing. I mean, for fuck's sake, I bought a piece of land in some sandbox somewhere that's worth fuck all now just to be part of the ecosystem, right? I think like when you look at Meta as an example, not Metaverse, but Meta's in Facebook, the company, they invested so much money in the Metaverse and you saw their stock price dive in. And in November 2022, Zuck came out and said, look, listen, we're going to cut spending. And then since then, if you look at the share price of Meta since November 2022, what the fuck? For the size of company that it is, it's done like a 300% increase. Like, what is that about?
Yeah.
It's NVIDIA.
Which just doesn't make sense. I mean, it's one of them things, obviously, people are still talking about it, but across our clients, across the businesses we work with, I've seen very little example of application.
Yeah, I think, look, metaverse, you know, VR, AR, you know, augmented reality is probably where a lot of players are going in this space. You see a lot of in-person shopping experiences that kind of combine that AR element of it. So, for example, you know, you go into a makeup counter and they can automatically like put the lipstick on you in the mirror sort of thing. That kind of stuff works really well, but it's more of an in-store experience, like an out-of-home marketing sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, even we've had a few furniture brands adopt that recently, where, you know, you can put the sofa in your own room.
Exactly.
It's a great way to see it. Again, in application, could I say it's faultless? No, I couldn't. There seems to be many an issue.
Sofa looks great, doesn't fit through the fucking door.
Exactly. There's these issues there. So we talked about the changes over the next few years. For brands, what can brands be doing to stay ahead of the curve in this industry over the next 5, 6, 10 years? How do the brands make sure they're on top of influencer marketing trends?
So I think to stay on top of it, you have to be involved in it. If you're not a consumer of social media, you are not going to be in on the trends. So there's a difference between being a creator and a consumer. A good creator is also a good consumer, or they've also got a team of consumers that are consuming a lot of other media. I'm not a great consumer of social media, right? I'm more of an Instagram guy than a TikTok kind of person, right? There's a new trend called Brat Summer. I thought Bratz dolls with the big fucking eyes. How wrong was I? Apparently it's like hot girl, messy summer or something like that. Sounds great. But, I had no idea about this trend until, my social media manager, who's Gen Z, she's 22 years old, told me about it. I'm oblivious to it, but you've got huge brands like Sisters and Seekers have like tapped into that and just have amplified it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming to see us today. Really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, 3 top tips for brands to get the most out of influencer marketing.
Work with influencers that align with your brand and not what your brand wants to be. So just because somebody else works with them doesn't mean that you should be working with them. Treat influencer marketing like talent scouting. If you can identify an influencer that's on the rise in the early stage of their career, you can both grow together. As that influencer gains popularity, builds more of a community. If you stand by that influencer and you become an integrated part of their content and their life, it's an unbelievable way to grow. And I think my final tip is when you're looking to price influencers, split out the opportunity cost, the cost of creating content internally as a team for organic social, for paid ads, etc. What would that cost you with a production company? And then you've also got the cost of the actual influencer's reach. So split that cost out, look at the opportunity cost between you creating that content in-house versus the influencer creating it as a decentralized way of doing it, then the reach on top of it.
Fantastic. So for all the businesses out there, 8 fantastic free top tips for Sam there. You can find out more about SoSquared across all the social channels on their website. So do check them out for some fantastic influencer marketing campaigns. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We've got more amazing guests joining us over the next few weeks on Raising the Bar. So remember to subscribe and like across YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you for joining us.